What's good, homies? Welcome back to Retro Rewind, a series where I go back and play older games to see how they hold up today. This episode releases on Halloween, so we're gonna cover a spooky game, and what better series to go to than Resident Evil? I love the Resident Evil series, and RE4 is one of my favorites. RE4 is often seen as a turning point for the series. People love it for its innovative gameplay and aesthetic, but it also gets blamed for the series' departure from horror because it is more focused on action rather than the scares. Despite this criticism, it is often seen as the best Resident Evil game. But I'm here to see if it's still worth playing today, so grab your shotguns and your herbal substances, cause we're going to be surviving the horror that is
Resident Evil 4.
The plots in Resident Evil games are usually really cheesy, like a bad action movie, and RE4 might be the best example of this. You play as Leon Kennedy, who is on the search for the president's missing daughter, Ashley. All clues lead him to a rural village in what is most likely Spain, but the villagers don't like him too much. The village is under the control of the cult Los Illuminados, who have infected the villagers with Las Plagas, a horrible parasite. Leon and Ashley are both infected, so Leon must find a cure and escape with Ashley. Leon is probably the most developed character, and by that, I mean he's a cool guy spitting out one-liners left and right.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Ashley is the typical scared, annoying companion.
Don't come!
Hey!
Ada Wong is the mysterious helper whose motives are unclear.
See you around.
Ada!
Luis Serra is the guy who dies too early.
Leon! I got it.
And Sadler and Salazar are just evil to be evil.
No longer will the United States think they can police the world forever. So, we kidnap the president's daughter.
This game's story isn't anything amazing, but it doesn't have to be. It is entertaining enough to keep players playing, and the characters, though kinda shallow, serve their roles and make some memorable quotes.
I've been expecting you, my brethren.
No thanks, bro.
I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
How rude!
Okay, I have only one very important question. You got a smoke?
Got gum.
Whenever I play a Resident Evil game, one of the main things I'm looking for is a detailed, immersive, and well thought out environment. Most of the games go through 3 areas. Usually they start in a highly atmospheric, tense area, then they move to a more action-focused, but still spooky area, and finish it up with an action-packed lab or military sort of thing. RE4 follows the same formula. Like I said before, Leon starts in a rural Spanish village. I like the aesthetic here. With everything being almost medieval, it nails the idea that you're an outsider, both culturally and chronologically. There are skulls on pikes, bodies left to rot, and an overall gloom over the village that gives it an uneasy vibe. I feel that this is a pretty strong start to the game, although it doesn't really get much scarier than this. After the village, you go to a giant medieval castle. This is where the game gets a little wacky crazy! The environment is still cool and creepy, but less scary as a whole because of its fantastical aesthetic. There are enemies with flails, shields, and crossbows, as well as a swinging axe trap and spears that come from the ground. These are things that are expected from a castle, but once you go further, you encounter a room filled with lava and dragon statues that breathe fire. If that's not wacky enough, there's a giant robot statue of the heir of the castle that chases you. The castle section is definitely outrageous, but it also might be the best part of the game. The encounters are fun, the cutscenes are interesting, and the game doesn't take itself too seriously, allowing the player to accept the shenanigans rather than question why this is happening in the first place. Things don't always need to make sense to be fun. The final area is the island. It's essentially all action focused from here, though there is one encounter that brings back the horror vibes. This area is full of enemies, explosions, and pretty much ends with a boss rush. It's definitely a satisfying ending to the game, but a bit underwhelming after the wacky castle.
Got something that might interest you.
Resident Evil 4 is a third-person shooter, but it was the game that revolutionized the over-the-shoulder camera, keeping the character in the frame while also giving the player space to see what's going on. The game also has one of the simplest but most satisfying loops in any game. Pretty much, you use guns to kill enemies and get money from those enemies to buy and upgrade guns to kill more enemies. This sounds like a given, but it's just so much fun considering the gunplay that's in this game. When you aim, you are locked in place. No wall runs or flips to save you. Resources are scarce, so each shot matters. The sounds and impacts from each gun are so satisfying, and the enemies react to where they get shot. So if you pop someone in the kneecap, they'll fall to their knees and you can set up a sick suplex. Because of this, the encounters never really get boring. The bosses are pretty fun as well, if you fight them normally, that is. Most bosses can be killed with one shot from a rocket launcher, but I recommend fighting them legit for the first time. The other big mechanic RE4 popularized are quick time events. I'm not a big fan of these, but in a survival horror game they definitely make sense. I just prefer to watch cutscenes and not have to worry about getting shanked.
Die, comrade!
If I played Resident Evil 4 with no extra knowledge of it, I would think that it's a relatively modern game, maybe from the early 2010s. I feel like that says a lot, because this game is 16 years old at this point, and it doesn't feel shabby at all. It's just an overall very entertaining experience, and with good replay value. I can honestly see myself playing this game annually. This game is also on everything now, even on mobile. Even though it isn't quite my favorite Resident Evil, I highly recommend this game to anyone in need of a satisfying game that is just genuinely fun.